Hello there! Today I'm back with another Next Fest demo, but this one is a little bit different. Yesterday I got an email from the developers of this game, politely and really professionally asked me if I wanted to check their game out, to which I said, sure, okay. It actually has been on my list of demos to try, just haven't really got around to it, so here we are today. Already did a couple runs to get myself familiar with it. This is Conquerlands, a roguelike deck builder that actually shows quite the promise. I hope they will end up doing something great with it. Right at the start, I'm gonna say, I'm really digging this grainy texture they're using. Really reminds me of that other game, that alchemy simulator. What was the name? I think it was Potion Craft. Yeah, that was probably it. They're probably using the same asset packs or something. Anyway, let's get it started. We choose our character, getting teased with 2 unlockables, but since in its present state the demo ends about 1/3 of the way through, we're not actually going to be able to unlock these, so this is the only guy we have. He starts with the ability Iron Shield, gains block when we activate Rage, which is like a special ability, and he also has a passive called Barrack. He gains +2 block with infantry units. You're gonna see what that means real quick. And we're here. Very standard, Spire-like start. We can choose between 2 starting boons. Let's grab a free card. What do we have? Power Shield. 1 strength, 2 shield. Parry, 4 damage for block, or Revenge, 16 damage. I do like this card. Gonna grab it real quick. Okay, one little thing. It is my persistent pet peeve, so take it however you will, but I really do not like it when a game just takes the entire UI of Slay the Spire wholesale. Like, look at this. In Spire this is the floor counter, but in this game there are no floors, so this is completely unnecessary. It shouldn't even be here. Not that it matters all that much at the end of the day. It's just personal preference. Just leaving it out here. Okay, first we select our region. There are 10 regions in total, as the game description says, but that is technically a lie, because the first one we click is going to become our home region, then we start expanding from there. Then it doesn't actually matter which one we pick. I would really like if there were some randomized bonuses that you get based on whichever one you pick. And maybe some smaller bonuses as you keep conquering them. I feel like that would really differentiate these areas. Because as of right now, it really does not matter. So let's just start from here. And then we need to select a neighboring one. And as you can see, unlike in other Spire-like roguelike deck builders, we don't actually have zigzagging map. We have 3 very distinct paths, and we get to pick one of them. I actually kinda like this idea. You sort of lock yourself into a path and try to survive whatever is on it. So we got a path here with 4 fights, 1 shop and 1 random event. Got one with 3 fights, 2 events, and the shop at the end. And also got a little smaller one with 2 fights and 2 events. I think I'm gonna take this one. Okay, and we are here at the meat of the game. This one is our character, and these 3 spaces are where we're going to get the enemies. Pretty standard. The other have here, and their intentions over here. We have our cards here. And this game doesn't actually use energy to use your cards. Instead, it uses armies, which you can see down here. It works kinda like dice work in some other deck builders. You don't randomly roll for the number on these. Instead, if I click this, you can see we're actually going to build this army. It's kinda like a secondary deck, and we're going to use these to trigger the cards themselves. You see, most of our basic stuff can be used by any of the armies, but there are some cards, like this Revenge here, that need specific triggers, either by number or by army type. You can also see this little symbol right here to the side. This one right here is our rage meter. Ignore this number. At first I thought it was the amount of damage that we need to take, and it will slowly fill up. But that is also incorrect. It actually ticks up by 10 at every single instance of damage that we take, so basically that 30 is just 3. I hope that either gets reversed a little bit or gets more interaction. Anyway. Down here we have the draw piles, and at the opposite corner we have the discard piles. We also got these peasant armies. There are going to be certain cards that use these instead of your armies. You can think of those as technically free cards, since you don't use the normal resource for them. There's also these two cards right here. You always have these. There's a position change, where we can change the position of the enemies, and the unit change, which you can use 3 times per fight, and it randomly changes your unit, both the type and the value. To be perfectly honest, I don't really like the current way the unit change works, especially with how limited it is. Because when you want to use it during a fight, it is because you have a card that needs a specific activator. But because it completely randomizes, it doesn't exclude whatever you started with. Which obviously it should, because that is the reason you want to change it. So I think it would be nice if the unit changer could at least remove the possibility of getting back the same one. Just a suggestion. Now the reason position change is important, because when you look at the attacks here, well, every card really, you see these 4 boxes. Those actually correspond, you can also see the colors here, to the spaces on the battlefield. So the blue is us, that's always used by block cards, and the attacks are actually hitting set places on the battlefield. So now that he is in the middle place, we can only use this attack to hit him, and the revenge. And if I wanted to use this one attack, I would need to fill position change. We actually need to just toss in armies until the numbers add up here, and then we are going to be able to freely move him around until we use another card. And after we use position change, the cost actually goes up by 2. So from 6 it keeps going up, and the maximum is 18. So the longer the fight goes on, the more resources you have to put into making sure all the enemies are in the right place. And sometimes that means you don't get to use the cards you want. Now first things first, let's try to hit this guy a little bit. Let's go with the revenge. It it needs an army with a strength of 3 or below. And we hit him. Let's hit you again. Now, because we started with this barracks card, with this barracks ability, you see the block card gives you 5 block. However, if you use an infantry card, that will passively increase it by 2 to 7. And now what we can do, I use this 6-point cavalry to use position change and switch him to the front. Position change is actually active for as long as you don't use another card, so you can freely just play around with it. Okay, you're in the first position, so I'm gonna hit you once more. If you have some spare armies, you can just toss them into position change until the countdown is almost there. Makes the next turn a little better. Okay. And you always draw 4 cards and 5 armies. It's a little weird choice, but okay. We can defend here. And he's not in a good position, so none of these attacks can hit him. What we can do is fill up the position change. However, we are going to be out of armies, so we can't actually use these attacks. But what we can do is take a look at the draw pile. So we're getting 2 of these armor pierce cards coming up, and both of them can only hit the middle. So what we can do is preemptively do the position change, set him up for the next turn. Let's see. And now we're in perfect position to end the fight. One thing I want to say is that I do like the idea of moving the enemies around, but if it's only so that you can actually use your attacks, it becomes a little boring, dare I say pointless even, because once you have them in the position, you might as well just ignore all the cards that don't hit there, and then you never have to do the position change again. So I would really like it if either the different positions would have different modifiers. So maybe back here they would be a little weaker, or at the front they would take a little more damage. So you would actually have to think about where you want your enemies at any given time, or maybe even give the enemies some modifiers where they are stronger or weaker, or even do different attacks depending on where they are. Just saying. So we're gonna hit you with an armor pierce, and that gives you vulnerable, which doesn't even matter because you're dead anyway. Okay, we get some gold. We get a chance to add 1 unit to the army. In the beginning you don't really have cards that need any specific soldiers, so you might as well just not take anything until you know what you want them for, unless it is pretty high value. Next we get some cards. I think this is actually the first time I actually got basic attack and defend as a card choice. Interesting. But I'm gonna take an iron shield. Gives more block and draws a card. So it's pretty much free. Okay, now this I don't really like. When you take everything, you still have to manually press skip. That will probably be worked on a little later. We got a helpful nobleman A noble who hasn't lost hope in the kingdom has sent you a messenger along with a sealed letter. The message is clear. If you're still resisting, I won't abandon you. I will send my support if you wish. And we can choose. Get the reinforcement. Empire Legacy. These are basically your relics. Draw an extra unit each turn. That is very powerful. Or gain the Antique Empire Legacy. But get an unplayable card that you cannot get rid of. Now, if this was any other deck builder, I would go for this, because 2 strength is very powerful. However, in this one, every single buff that either you or the enemies get actually ticks down every turn. So you cannot actually scale up in this game like you would in other deck builders. So I'm just gonna take the reinforcement. Okay, now we got 2 people. And each of them have stone wall. They're gonna gain some block when we deal damage to them. Okay, now we start with the revenge. Heh. Okay, we win on turn 1. Fair enough. This is why I like this card. Because now I appear to have miscalculated a little. No matter. Yeah, I could have done it if I was a little smarter. Wasn't paying enough attention. But now for sure. There we go. We still don't have anything. Because of revenge, we need to keep a few smaller ones at hand. But for now, not gonna take any. Let's see what do we have here. Deal 2 damage 4 times. Single use. This one very specifically needs a spearman. Deals damage multiple times to all enemies. Or double your block. Let's take the damage for now. And from this point on, we're gonna be on the lookout for spearmen. Okay, we have an archer now. I'm gonna move you to the middle position, so most of our abilities can hit. And now, we don't have an even number here, so we're not able to use this armor pierce, which is where the unit changer should come in handy. Let's see what we get now. And look at that. Level 6 infantry. Just what we need. Easy money. Do I take another revenge? Of course I do. Don't want these. And yet another fight. Okay, cannot hit you. What are we getting next turn? Now, when this revenge actually works on the front, you see, these damage cards actually have randomized where they're going to hit. So even if you take the same cards every run, your strategy is not going to stay the same. As for right now, Let's get you to the middle. Set you up with a bit of armor pierce. And then use the rest to tick down the position change. Wonderful. So now this card is gonna do 2 damage 4 times if we use it. And he still has vulnerable, so that should be 3 damage 4 times. Let's see about that. Yes, indeed. Let's armor up a little bit. And we had him. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm actually gonna take an antidote. A little bit of healing. Would do us good. Ooh. Spearman with a 6. That's very nice. Okay, sorry. Here we have a shop. We can remove cards here as well as units. We got some potions, some relics. Also buy some units. Pretty standard fare, really. Ooh, barter. I do like this one. This uses those peasants, so technically it is free. It draws 1 card and 1 unit. There's literally no downside to this. Let's grab you. And that's all the money we had. Okay, and there is going to be a boss after every 3rd area that we conquer. So basically you're gonna have 3 bosses all together in a run. Oh, this one has 2 rest sites. That's a lot of chance for upgrading. Let's go with that. And it looks like we're almost winning turn 1 again. Let's start with this. Let's position change you to here. And then the greatest chance we have to get an attack is in the middle. So you're going here. Get rid of you then. And then block up to mitigate the damage of this spear blow that we just got. Little healing. You're gonna buff. I don't really like that they still have the number as if they were going to deal damage. Not sure if it's a visual bug or something else. But anyway. And we win again. You know what? I think I'm gonna be a bit controversial here and not take any of these. I feel like we are strong enough at this point. Classic spire-like rest site. We can heal for 30% or upgrade a card. And upgrades are even more important than in other deck builders because of the way the damage cards work. Because let's take, for example, one of our revenge cards. You see, there's actually two ways to upgrade any card. You can upgrade, you can also see it here in the upper corners. You can upgrade the values of the card themselves. So it's gonna be damage or the block for the block cards. But in the case of attacks, you can actually upgrade the position so they hit multiple places at once. So with revenge, we can either make it hit the middle too, or the front and the back. Right now, I'm gonna go with this one. The more attacks we have that can hit the same place, the better, because that means the less we have to use the shifting about. Again, if you give literally any reason for me to move the enemies about, that would be much better, but that's the way it is right now. I just want them to be in one place that is convenient for me. And right now, another. Let's actually upgrade this storm, deal more damage. We have another shop, but we don't have money. We do have money for a potion. Block is not removed for 2 turns. Our target cannot gain block for 2 turns. No, not really feeling it. Moving on. You're gonna attack and debuff. Here we go. You see, we got a border. It's gonna use one of these, so it's technically free. We can start by getting you 1 damage. Then moving you to the middle. You know, one thing I would really like would be if these armies had an intrinsic effect. Like, I like the way it works. Like, these armies act as a totally separate deck of sorts, and it's also a resource for using your primary deck. But I feel like it would be enhanced if each of these unit types would have a little added effect to them. Like, maybe you could say that any attack you trigger with Spearman would also hit the one behind for half damage or something. And the one thing I think would work thematically and would be really nice was if the cavalry would actually count as higher when you use it for position change. It would just make sense, you know? Because you're gonna see, especially with the boss fight at the end, spending 18 from your armies for 1 position change is really not worth it most of the time. Okay. Hit you with a debuff. And then we're just gonna keep rerolling until we get a low number. There we go. Okay, now I'm gonna take another storm. And another spearman. Let's see. Let's go this way. This has the most amount of stuff. Oh, you're going to core reinforcement. Okay. There we go. We cannot get any more armor here. Start off with this. And you're done already. Okay. Let's move you to the middle. Easy peasy. Let's grab another iron shield. These are technically free. What do we get? Block potion. I don't think 5 is a good enough number to warrant a potion. Make it at least 20, I think. First attack each combat deals 5 additional damage. Now, if I could combine that with Storm, that would be pretty heavy. Marching on, weary with your army, you spot a hill in the distance. As you set up camp and catch your breath, you reflect on your battle plans. It's time to leave old tactics behind. Time to turn a new page. Let's remove a card. It's always a good idea. And since we already have 2 iron shields, we can start getting rid of defense. Okay. So, let's actually try it out. I'm not actually going to attack this turn. See where that gets us. Gonna put you in your place. Okay, and now that we got damaged, we can use Rage. Because of his ability, this is basically a free block whenever we need it. And then we need to get hit 3 times again. I really would like if there were cards, or even army types, that could be used to give you Rage. Because this way, you need to already be damaged to get blocked to mitigate more damage. Doesn't really make sense to me, you know? Interesting. It looks like this is also a buff in nature, which means it goes away after the first turn. There really should be something that tells you. Either that or rework how buffs work altogether. Let's see. Need to reroll. See, that's the inherent problem with the randomness of this unit change. I feel like it might be worth splitting this one into two. Maybe one that rerolls only the number and one that rerolls only the type of unit. Maybe. We did okay without that, but still. Well, Blood Blow is pretty high damage at the cost of health. But we also have a card that can heal us. It should be okay at this point. Okay, and let's upgrade. What should we upgrade? With this deck we pretty much have guaranteed that whoever is in the middle is going to get it. So how about I upgrade this Blood Blow to hit the middle as well? Okay, and because this is the third area, there should be a boss here. What do you have? Oh hey, look, it's a World of Warcraft hunter. Whenever we play a ranged unit, this one heals. Okay, so this is one of those times where the boss can break your build completely. I like it when games are cheeky like that. One way to get around this ability is that if you toss it into the position change, it doesn't actually count as being used, only when you use it to trigger one of your cards. And speaking of tossing, I feel like there would be a benefit to there having something like over here, where you could just put one of your armies like in reserve, and you could get it back the next turn. And maybe it goes on cooldown, so every other turn you can just store something, just in case you have a card that needs one very specific army, you know? Let's try to reroll this archer. Reroll into another archer. Again, this would really help. If it could never be the same thing again. That's slightly better. You're just dealing debuffs. And now you're doing a big hit. Gonna use the rage here. Get a little block. Almost fully blocked. And no attacks this turn. Okay then. At least I get to fully block. That's something. Okay, 12 damage. It's blocked. You see, this fight would have been a lot more problematic if he just kept all the stacks of this arrow spire, and then I would be basically forced to never use a ranged unit. But because every single buff and debuff counts down in this game, all we have to do is just wait him out. And then his gimmick doesn't even work anymore. I think you might have to rework that a little bit. It's a little too easy. You can't just win any fight as long as you have enough to stall for time. And here we go, boss defeated. Got a free potion. By the way, I think these buttons are entirely too big. I think you should scale them down a little. Gain to block when you drink a potion. Too little, too late. Oh, never seen this one before. Needs a specific knight. Deals 28 damage. Or Carnage. Needs any type of cavalry. 28 damage to all enemies. But gives an unplayable card. So it's gonna bloat your deck. But as long as you use it sparingly, should be fine. Alright, and this is where the demo ends. So this is Conquer Lands. As far as roguelike deck builders go, I think this one shows quite a bit of promise. The fact that you're basically dealing with two decks, with the armies, in theory, should be giving you a lot of options. But right now, those armies don't actually do anything other than enable you to use your cards. So I guess my main message to the devs here is that you really should put a little something on your armies. You maybe could even randomize it a little. So during the run, it would matter which of the units you pick up after a fight or something. Because right now the only thing that matters is the number on them. Also, as you have seen, once you have the enemy where you want it, you don't actually need to use the movement option anymore. And the devs told me that it should be a very big part of the gameplay, so I do really think that you should give the players an incentive to shift the enemies around, and not just because that is where you can hit them. Maybe give them little debuffs, or get cards that deal extra damage to enemies that moved during that turn or something. Like, I feel like anything would be better than just moving them for the sake of moving them, you know? But overall, I do like this. It's a little bare bones in my opinion, but the framework is pretty solid, and as long as the devs are willing to play around with new modifiers and such, this could be very nice roguelike deck builder. I am definitely keeping this in my wishlist and see how the development goes. This was Conquerlands. I'm gonna leave a link to the Steam page in the description. If you feel like you want to try it out yourself, wishlist it even. Thank you for your time. I'll see you around.